Hi, Michael Delamonica here at FATV, continuing our series of local school committee debates. We're doing both Leominster and Fitchburg over the next couple of weeks. And this is the Ward 3 Leominster debate. That is a seat being vacated by the incumbent Greg Thomas, who will be featured in the at-large debates. He's running at-large this year. So it's an open seat. And we have two relative newcomers to politics running for that seat. We have Sandra Kuchara and we have Caitlin Volpe. And so let's get right to the questions. To the both of you, and you'll each have approximately 2 minutes to give a response, and then we'll have roughly 2 to 3 minutes of back and forth, an opportunity to address each other's points or have a discussion about things or any follow-ups that you feel warranted. What are the two biggest challenges you see for Leominster schools for the upcoming 2 years? So for this upcoming term, if you're elected, what are the two biggest challenges you see for Leominster schools, and how do you propose dealing with those challenges? We'll start with Ms. Volpe.
Hi, my name is Caitlin Volpe. The two biggest challenges, I believe that one would be we need to work on our safety policy. Right now, we worked on hiring some SROs to help with our school system, and we have up to 3 of those right now. But I believe that we need to get some more of those in so that we can have more security at our schools. And I feel like part of that issue is the glass door, like the external part of our schools needs to be also looked at as far as security, because I know that at a couple schools right now we have glass doors on the outside. Somebody could easily break into that. Things like, I just really want to take a look at the security. And then I also believe, we're going to be hiring a new superintendent, so that's another big deal. We're going to be needing to put some serious effort into that. So
the two things you like to bring to the table in terms of issues would be school security, both external and internal, and then the hiring of a new superintendent. Correct. Okay. Ms. Kuchara.
I'm actually in agreement with Kate when it comes to that, with the security and also the superintendent. However, I'd like to add to that there are going to be financial concerns, as usual, because the COVID funds are going to be coming to an end very shortly. So we need to take a look at our needs. We need to take a look at what should be prioritized. The other piece of it is curriculum. I feel that there is going to be a lot happening in terms of changes in curriculum and perhaps federal governmental expectations. And I think that we need to anticipate that there is going to be a lot of controversy and a lot of debate. And I think that we need to be prepared for that, both as parents and as people in the community, because it is going to impact everyone.
Now, Ms. Volpe referenced external and internal school resource officers as well as actual fortification of buildings and whatnot. And you mentioned prioritizing. Well, what would your priority be?
I would say that actually in terms of safety for the children, I would say that that's first. So we have been looking at
which one?
As far as the security goes.
Okay.
Because there has been a decrease in the number of resource officers that have been instituted in the various schools. We've lost some, and I do think that given the population we have a large school population. We're a small urban community, but overall we have 6,000 students, and I do think we have to look at the safety of the children too. So some buildings I know that you need to buzz yourself in. Most of them probably, but I'm not aware of all of them. But I do think that the safety measures need to be imposed in a much more rigid fashion in some places.
So anything to add to what Ms. Kuchara said in that regard?
I feel like, there is a surplus of money every year. And as of right now, we get a certain portion of that, and then the other portion is held on to, and it goes to school-related funding. And I think that we can use that funding, and I believe that that will be approved by our mayor. So
And in terms of some of the curriculum concerns, that is there anything that you wanted to sort of add on to that in terms of what Ms. Kuchar had raised in terms of curriculum matters?
Yeah, curriculum. Yes, I believe that we need to work on core academics, basically, for curriculum. We need to stop worrying about anything that might be a political distraction. We just need to get our core academics beefed up, and we need to focus primarily on that. So,
what would some of those core subjects be?
Math, English, science, that type of thing.
Science, English, math.
My concerns are with social studies. And I have seen over the years, I think because of the fact that social studies is not tested on MCAS, that it's not being given the attention as I feel it should be given. We're in the United States of America, and I think that our students need to be made more aware of social studies, how our government runs. I taught juniors and seniors, and there were times that I was really quite concerned over their lack of knowledge in areas that I thought they would have had knowledge. I think that part of it, again, I'm not saying the teachers they're not doing their jobs. What I'm saying is because of the fact that there is that gap in the MCAS, that reality, the truth of the matter is that it's not being addressed as intensely as I think it should be. However, I've been told through DESE that apparently they are going to be looking at, the state will be looking at testing the students in social studies as well as English, math, and science. And I think that's imperative.
I would agree.
It
would be a core academic. You know, working on all of those types of areas is very important. So.
Do you think, just as a sort of a side shoot to that, do you think we are relying too much on standardized testing? I'll give you both the opportunity to answer. Go ahead.
Okay. I am not a huge proponent of testing for a variety of reasons. I have 2 children of my own. One tests well, the other one does not. I never tested well. I understand that there needs to be some accountability. I do understand that there needs to be a way of rating performance. My huge concern has been that it's tied into a graduation requirement. Now, with some students, they've gone to portfolios, and we're in, especially the special ed students, where they can opt for another way of approaching it. But still, though, the MCAS, it takes up a large amount of time. I am realistic enough to know the testing will not be going away. And it's not just the MCAS, it's MAP testing, it's with the younger children, it's reading, it's DIBELS, it's whatever. And as I said, it has its proper place if we're able to use that information to remediate and to help the students. But oftentimes it becomes either instructing to a specific area of the test, or it becomes a matter of test, retest, so that there isn't enough of an opportunity to work with the children, depending on the age.
Anything to add to that?
I would just say that we do rely too much on the standardized testing. I believe that teaching to the testing is really rough on the kids. Honestly, my kids in particular, you know, when they're having MCAS and they're having all these standardized tests, they are completely stressed out to the point where they can't even think properly. So it just drags, honestly, negativity out of them. So.
Moving on to question 2. While Leominster's middle schools are newer by state public school standards anyway, and the high school was recently refurbished, the youngest elementary school in Leominster is still more than 50 years old. Fitchburg has recently had approved funding for a new elementary school, and should Leominster follow suit and seek the construction of a new elementary school or 2? We'll start with Ms. Kuchara this time.
Well, several years ago, before COVID, just before COVID, I led the fight for air quality in the schools. There were concerns, particularly in 2 of the schools, one, the high school, also Northwest was another one, but in all our schools, that the air quality was not up to par. The teachers union actually did pay for 2 gentlemen from EPA. One was a professor at Lowell State, and they came in and they did air quality testing at the high school, and the report was deplorable. They also did a report for Fallbrook School, and that information we shared it. It was shared with the school committee behind closed doors, and then it was supposed to go public, but COVID arrived and that never happened. But there are some serious concerns, and especially considering COVID, let's just focus on that. The respiratory system and all that, and the air quality was not at all near what it should have been.
So, new schools? Rehabilitated schools?
Well, I think that, first of all, I think that the schools should be maintained. I'm not saying they're not maintained at all, but for example, at the high school, this was happening before. I'm not saying it's happening now, but the air filters, for example, they should be changed every 6 months, and that wasn't being done. That's relatively simple. It's a matter of a Phillips head screwdriver, which my vocational students managed to do. You change the filter, they're 99 cents a piece. That's simple. When it comes to other schools, there was one school in particular where there were concerns regarding mold and other issues that impose a health hazard for our children.
Ms. Volpe.
We are in the process of building a new Fallbrook, so that is in the works. So we are currently working on replacing buildings. I know that it hasn't started yet, but it's in the very near future.
But is it, I don't know if it's determined yet whether it's going to be a rehab similar to the high school or whether it's going to be a ground-up rebuilding. Is that still, I believe that's still in the early stages?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. But we're still, I know that we're talking about it as a city. So, and then, just the new building that we're hopefully going to get. And we're going to be moving the LCE building into a new building. So I just feel like we're going to need money from the state to renovate these buildings and to keep everything up to par, as Sandy said. So we're going to need to, make sure that that the air quality is good, and we're going to need to make sure that safety of the buildings are good. So.
Do you think, to Ms. Kuchara's point, I want to just give you an opportunity to talk similarly about this subject. Do you think the schools are being maintained sufficiently in light of post-COVID matters, or just in general?
I do, especially since COVID. I mean, they have been on top of it, and ever since then they've been checking everything. That's the talk I've heard. So I'm believing that that's the case. I haven't seen an actual report on that, but I believe that they're keeping everything up the way they should. So, because it's according to the state. So.
All right. So, just some opportunity for follow-up, Ms. Kuchara. Anything to add on this subject?
Well, with regard to air quality, that was a particular concern to me because there is also an inordinate number, a percentage of people who have types of cancer that have been documented statistically, and they're very unusual. And again, it goes back to, I was told that it's genetics. It's not genetics. I am a former patient, a cancer patient. It's not always that. We need to be vigilant. We need to be vigilant, and I would like to see at some point the possibility of getting some type of checklist, perhaps, something very simple, which was suggested several years ago, just to say, yes, the vents have been changed. Yes, the staircase has been maintained. Those types of things that are relatively simple and would take a matter of minutes if it were being done consistently. And that's what we were asking for at the time.
Anything to add regarding consistency or any other thoughts?
It's very important to keep everything healthy and safe. So whatever we need to do to make that happen is very, very important, and it's a priority.
So we can move on to question 3, and it kind of ties into what we started to talk about the tail end there. For anything that you do, it needs money and funding. So there have been reforms on the Massachusetts level to school financing, and the formulas that have been updated in recent years have caused a little bit less of a financing crisis in the cities in terms of state contributions. However, Leominster still has to contribute its own share. Traditionally, Leominster has been a net school spending city. In other words, the state sets forth what is a net school spending amount that the city should be doing. Leominster usually meets it or slightly exceeds it. Generally does not greatly exceed it, as some municipalities do. With that said, the state funding has increased, and we have seen far fewer battles last couple of terms with respect to financing and budgets and funding. So with all that said, in light of this increased state funding, do you believe what we chip in at the local level and the system and the traditional process that Leominster uses is fair or sufficient, or do you feel that it is insufficient? I'll give you the opportunity, Ms. Volpe.
I believe that we are sufficient. I believe that we're giving the correct amount of money to the school, and that any surplus from that, any additional money or funds that we have from that, needs to be spent responsibly. So instead of just giving one lump sum of additional money, and we're not sure, checks and balances where that's all going, then we need to have those checks and balances in front of us and understand that this is where this is being spent, this is where this is being spent. So yes, I do believe that we're doing a good job in that respect.
So in essence, what the city has been doing for the last several years is working.
I believe so.
Okay.
Yeah, I do.
All right. Ms. Kuchar.
I agree with Kate. I think it's very complex. Funding is very complex. I don't even pretend to be a financier. I do not understand all the complexities. I've taught for over 40 years in this state, 30 years in Leominster, and very active in the teaching profession, both with my students and with my colleagues. And there has always been that mantra where we're not getting enough money, the mayor isn't providing enough money. Yet, in conversations that I have had with Mr. Mazzarella, there are pieces of what he said that made sense, that he has many departments in this city. And what he does is he gives an allowance, if you will, to each department. And then it is the responsibility of the administrator in that particular department to dispense the money accordingly. So I think that, again, it's very complicated. There are a lot of people involved. There are a lot of, like federal funding, even the transportation, the money that comes back from the state for that, for special ed, for the ESSA, for monies that also are expected to go to providing services to our students who are also in private schools because they're required to do that. So it's a lot more complex. So to stand here and say, I don't think that enough has been given, I think it's the manner in which it's dispersed. And if it were transparent, I think it would make a difference in terms of squelching complaints maybe that are coming. I'm not saying it's all positive. I'm just saying that transparency is very important when it comes to budget.
Do you think there's a lack of transparency?
Maybe slightly. I think we could be probably more transparent with the money that's being spent. But I mean, we just had school supplies that were given to the city of Leominster, which was a huge help. That's it's pretty obvious where that's coming from. Things like fees for AP sports, bus fees, those are all waived. Kind of understand where that's coming from. So that's pretty transparent there. But I believe that there's always more room for transparency.
Always more room for transparency. All right. Anything else to add?
No.
Okay. Well, I think we're being very efficient. Boy, it's for somebody who's and for both of you, if you both follow Leominster city politics, it's a bit different of a tone out there in terms of some of this. So it's refreshing, but that we have some agreement here. But we can touch base briefly on the fourth question, but we basically have 5 minutes, and so before we go into closing statements. So. Nationally, school committees, school boards, depending on what state, depends on what they call it, you see the headlines. They waded into some political issues, okay? And to what extent do you believe some of these political and social issues need to be addressed in the Leominster School Committee, if at all? Or should we just keep all these political and social issues out of things? We're talking about perceived, whether it's, and again, I'm using phraseology that's out there. These aren't me editorializing it. Book banning, cancel culture, gender identity, some of these hot button issues that are divisive or polarizing. How do you see those coming up in the next couple of years? Do you think we need to have a discussion or just really not talk about it at all? So just a couple minutes each on that subject, Ms. Kuchar.
Well, education is an ongoing process. We try to learn from past errors. We deal with current events, and then we need to anticipate what's coming in the future. Education has always been, for as long as I've been in this field, which is, as I said, 40 years, it's a political football. And oftentimes our schools, our teachers, the parents, we're being used as pawns sometimes. But there is a political agenda, and I firmly believe that that political agenda will be facing us in 3 to 5 years. And it has to do with, for example, sex education. Now that's on the table right now, where that's going to be revamped. It's going to be added to. We don't know yet what that is. I can only assume. And it's difficult for parents. It's difficult for the students. It's difficult for the school district to absorb that. Now, I'm not so sure that we need to start those discussions now, because sometimes in doing that it can create anxiety and chaos. However, I think that we should be ready to approach it and at least have some resources on hand to know the possible directions that we can go, but not allowing ourselves to be used as political pawns.
Ms. Volpe.
There's a lot of political issues going on right now. You hear it on the news, you hear it in life in general. Our kids are exposed to it every day through social media, through device use, YouTube, all that stuff. We need to keep school. We need to keep school focused on core academics. There's really no room for anything other than core academics, in my opinion. So if people are having these types of political issues and political concerns, then we need to reach out to our resources in the schools and have them talk to the guidance counselors. Obviously we can't deny that they're having certain feelings about things, but we need to make it so that, we can have you, express your concerns with the appropriate people, and then we can move on and, continue with our teaching. So I just think that, everybody needs to feel safe in school. There's no room for bullying or harassment, and if there is any kind of bullying or harassment, then it really should be dealt with in the fullest extent. So there's just no room for it. It's too busy of a day. There's too short of a day. So that's how I feel about that.
Closing statements. So you have up to 3 minutes to use for your own closing statement. Make your case to the voters of Leominster as to why you would be the best candidate to serve in Ward 3 on the Leominster School Committee. Ms. Volpe, go ahead.
Sure. Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. My name is Caitlin Volpe, and I am a mother, and I live in Ward 3 at 20 Shady Lane. Today I stand before you as a concerned parent, a dedicated employee at Health Alliance Clinton Hospital, and a candidate for the school committee. I have 2 boys in the Leominster Public Schools. One, Robbie, he's in 6th grade, and he goes to Samoset Middle School, and my youngest, Anthony, he's in 4th grade, and he goes to Fallbrook Elementary. While talking with other parents during this campaign, I quickly came to realize that my story is your story. My problems are your problems, and my issues are your issues. I understand your struggles. My husband and I are both healthcare workers, and we are both employed full-time. We know what it's like to work full-time and raise children. My oldest son had an IEP for reading and writing. My husband and I struggled with him. We fought for that IEP. We worked with the school officials to implement the required services. We worked with Robbie on his homework and his strategies. Today I am happy to say that he has shown great improvement. As a member of the school committee, I want to ensure that all parents enjoy these same successes with their children. As a parent, I believe it is essential to have a voice in shaping what our students learn in school. My primary goal in running for school committee is to ensure that the school day is utilized effectively for core academics and enriching specials, rather than being consumed by social or political distractions. I also want to gain a deeper understanding of the inner workings of Leominster Public Schools. I want to witness firsthand how technology is improving, how standardized tests are prepared for, and how information is delivered to our students. Additionally, I aim to have a better grasp on budgeting and the everyday struggles faced by our schools. What sets me apart and qualifies me for this position is that I have skin in the game. The decisions made by the school committee directly impact my family, and I promise to make decisions based on what I believe is best for families like ours. Any decision can make a lasting impact on children's lives and futures. As a parent on the front lines, I witness firsthand what my children are learning, what motivates them, and what challenges they face every day. I am their advocate and their person. When it comes to advocating for my children, I say what comes to mind, which is also how I plan to run my campaign, and if elected, my seat in office with no regrets. While I may not have a background as a lifetime educator, I am a mother who deeply cares about the well-being of our children. Today I stand before you asking for your trust. Trust me with the responsibility of ensuring the best education for your children. Trust me to make decisions that prioritize their needs and their future. On November 7th, I humbly ask for your vote as together we can work towards a brighter future for our students and our community. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you, Ms. Volpe. Ms. Kuchara.
Again, my name is Sandy Cucciara, and I'm a candidate for Ward 3 School Committee. First of all, I'd like to thank the moderator and the station for allowing us to express our views and our points. I want to reiterate that having been in the classroom for over 30 years, I have dealt primarily with students who have a variety of challenges, and this is one of my concerns, that all children are treated the same way and they have access. There are children who do not have the availability of technology in their home. They may not have the ability to have parents who are able to supervise them. Both of my children, and yes, I'm a mother too, they are graduates. I am a proponent of the public school system. They are graduates of UMass and Worcester State. And I consider myself a lifelong learner, having kept abreast of current issues in education, taking advanced courses in data analysis of standardized test scores, which is especially relevant as we continue to establish criteria for assessing curriculum. I have a passion for education and a strong work ethic, and in addition to that, I do believe that our Leominster School District has done a remarkable job in dealing effectively with a diverse population, which poses numerous challenges. However, once again, it's an ongoing process that needs to address issues currently and how to anticipate changes in the future. To quote an African proverb, it takes a village to raise a child. The adage means this: it takes many people to provide a safe, healthy environment for our children, where all children are given the security they need to develop and flourish and to be able to realize their hopes and their dreams. Thank you, and please cast a vote for me, Sandy Cucciara, for Ward 3 School Committee on November 7th.
Well, thank you both, Caitlin Volpe, Sandra Kuchara. You've both made a very detailed and heartfelt case, and clearly both of you have the passion needed to serve on a school committee in Leominster. So now the choice is up to the voters. And again, as a reminder to the voters, these local elections, they don't get a lot of publicity like the national elections do. The turnout is not as good in the local elections, but I want to stress again that the local elected officials are the ones most likely to affect your everyday lives. So it's a shame that people don't go out and vote in the local elections like they do in the national and in some of the state elections. So I implore you, regardless of who your choice is, and both candidates have made their best case for why you should choose them, go out there and vote. So whether it's Ward 3, Ward 4, Ward 5, there are contested races up and down the ballot. So I would just say get out there and vote November 7th. Thank you.